Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom, there lived a kind and gentle princess named Snow White. Her beauty was unmatched, but it was her kindness that truly shone. Unfortunately, her stepmother, the queen, was jealous of her and sought to eliminate her rival. One day, the queen asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true, but Snow White is even fairer than you." Enraged, the queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and never return with her. However, the huntsman, touched by Snow White's innocence, could not harm her. He urged her to flee deep into the forest, promising to protect her. Snow White ran until she stumbled upon a quaint cottage, exhausted and frightened. She entered and found it to be the home of 7 dwarfs who worked in the nearby mines. The dwarfs welcomed her warmly, and in gratitude for their hospitality, Snow White kept their home clean and cooked delicious meals for them. They all quickly formed a bond of friendship, filling the cottage with laughter and joy. But the queen, realizing Snow White was still alive, disguised herself as an old peddler and returned to the cottage with a poisoned apple. "Dear girl, taste this lovely apple," she coaxed. Trusting the disguised queen, Snow White took a bite and instantly fell to the ground, lifeless. When the dwarfs returned, they were heartbroken to find their beloved friend in a deep sleep. They placed Snow White in a glass coffin in the forest, mourning her loss. Days turned into weeks until one day, a handsome prince riding through the woods discovered the coffin. He was captivated by Snow White's beauty and leaned down to kiss her. Miraculously, the spell was broken, and Snow White awakened. Overjoyed, she embraced the prince and told him of her time with the dwarfs. Together they returned to the castle, where the dwarfs were celebrated as heroes for their kindness and bravery. Snow White learned that true beauty comes from within, and that friendship is one of life's greatest treasures. From that day on, the kingdom flourished with love, and Snow White, the prince, and the 7 dwarfs lived happily ever after, reminding everyone that kindness and love triumph over jealousy and wickedness.
Cinderella, a magical story for kids. Once upon a time, in a cozy little village, there was a kind girl named Cinderella. She lived with her mean stepmother and 2 stepsisters, who always made her do all the chores around the house. Despite their unkindness, Cinderella was always cheerful and kind-hearted. One day, the king announced a grand ball at the palace. The prince was looking for a bride, and everyone in the kingdom was invited. Cinderella dreamed of going to the ball, but her stepmother said she couldn't go. She made Cinderella stay home to clean while her stepsisters went off in their lovely gowns. As Cinderella worked, a magical fairy godmother appeared. With a sprinkle of her magic dust, she turned a pumpkin into a beautiful carriage, mice into horses, and a friendly old rat into a coachman. She even gave Cinderella a stunning gown and delicate glass slippers. "Remember," said the fairy godmother, "you must return before midnight or the magic will wear off." At the ball, everyone marveled at Cinderella's beauty. The prince asked her to dance, and they twirled around the ballroom together. It felt like a dream. But as the clock struck 12, Cinderella had to leave in a hurry. In her rush, she left behind one of her glass slippers. The next day, the prince sent his messenger to find the girl who owned the slipper. When the messenger arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters tried on the slipper, but it was too small for them. Finally, Cinderella tried on the slipper, and it fit perfectly. The prince was thrilled to find Cinderella. They were married in a beautiful ceremony, and they lived happily ever after. Cinderella's kindness and courage had brought her a magical happy ending, and they all lived happily ever after.
The Little Mermaid's Hidden Treasure. Once upon a time, in a sparkling underwater kingdom called Atlantica, there lived a young mermaid named Ariel. Ariel had long, flowing red hair, bright green tail fins, and a curious spirit. She loved exploring the ocean and discovering its many secrets. Ariel was not like the other mermaids. While most of them were content with their daily routines, Ariel dreamed of adventure and excitement. Her father, King Triton, ruled Atlantica with wisdom and kindness, but he was worried about Ariel's desire to explore beyond their underwater world. He always reminded her to stay close to home and be careful. One sunny morning, as Ariel swam near a beautiful coral reef, she discovered something unusual. Among the colorful corals and playful fish, she found a small golden chest, partially buried in the sand. The chest was covered in barnacles and had intricate designs of seashells and starfish. Ariel's heart raced with excitement. She carefully brushed away the sand and opened the chest. Inside, she found an old, dusty map with strange markings and a shiny key. The map had a picture of a hidden treasure and a note that read, "Seek the treasure where the sea meets the sky. Only the bravest will find what lies hidden deep." Ariel's eyes sparkled with curiosity. She knew this was her chance for an adventure. She took the key and the map and swam back to her underwater home. When Ariel reached her father's grand palace, she showed King Triton the map and the key. "Father, look what I found. It's a treasure map. Can I go find it?" King Triton looked at the map with concern. "Ariel, this map leads to a place far from Atlantica. It may be dangerous. Promise me you will be careful." Ariel promised and set out on her adventure. She followed the map's directions, which led her to a deep, dark part of the ocean, known as the Abyss. It was a place where very few sea creatures dared to go. The water was colder, and the darkness seemed endless. As Ariel swam deeper into the abyss, she felt a bit scared, but remembered her promise to be brave. She followed the map's clues and soon arrived at a large, underwater cave covered with glowing seaweed. The map indicated that the treasure was hidden inside the cave. Inside the cave, Ariel found a series of puzzles and obstacles. The first challenge was a riddle carved into the wall. "I shine bright, but am not a star. I can be soft, but not a feather. What am I?" Ariel thought carefully and remembered how the sea glowed at night with the light of jellyfish. "It must be a jellyfish," she said aloud. As soon as she spoke the answer, a group of friendly jellyfish appeared, lighting up the cave with their soft, colorful glow. The jellyfish guided Ariel through the cave and to the next challenge. The second challenge was a maze of sharp rocks and tricky currents. Ariel used her wits and quick thinking to navigate through the maze, avoiding the dangerous obstacles. With the help of the jellyfish's light, she found the way through. At the end of the maze, Ariel came across a large, shimmering door with a keyhole that perfectly fit the golden key she had found. She inserted the key into the lock and turned it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal a beautiful underwater garden, filled with sparkling pearls and shimmering shells. In the center of the garden stood a magnificent chest. Ariel opened the chest and found a dazzling collection of treasures: gold coins, precious gems, and a beautiful crown made of coral and pearls. But what caught her eye the most was a small golden locket. Ariel picked up the locket and opened it, revealing a tiny shimmering picture of a mermaid. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the cave. "Thank you for finding my treasure, brave Ariel." Ariel turned around and saw a gentle sea spirit floating before her. The sea spirit had a shimmering, translucent body and a kind, warm smile. "I am the guardian of this treasure," the sea spirit explained. "Long ago, I hid these treasures to keep them safe from those who might use them for selfish purposes. You have proven your bravery, kindness, and wisdom. This treasure is now yours to protect and share." Ariel felt a sense of joy and responsibility. She thanked the sea spirit and promised to use the treasure wisely. With the treasure safely packed, she swam back to Atlantica, eager to share her adventure with her father and friends. When Ariel returned to the palace, King Triton and the other mermaids gathered around to hear her story. Ariel showed them the treasure and the golden locket. She told them about the challenges she faced and the lessons she learned along the way. King Triton was proud of Ariel. "You have shown great bravery and wisdom. The treasure will be a reminder of your adventure and the importance of using your gifts for the good of others." Ariel decided to use the treasure to help the creatures of the ocean. She shared the gold and gems with those in need and used the pearls and coral to create beautiful decorations for the underwater kingdom. The crown was placed in a special place in the palace, a symbol of Ariel's bravery and the magical adventure she had experienced. The story of Ariel's adventure became a beloved tale in Atlantica. The young mermaid's bravery and kindness inspired others to explore the world with courage and to use their gifts to help those around them. And so, Ariel continued to explore and learn, always remembering the lessons of her adventure. She cherished the golden locket and the memories of her journey, knowing that the true treasure lay not in the gold and gems, but in the courage, kindness, and wisdom she had discovered along the way.
Rapunzel, A Princess Stories.
A long time ago, a girl named Rapunzel was known for her beautiful long blonde hair. Unfortunately, she was locked up in a tower with no doors by an evil witch. The witch never allowed her to go out, which made her lonely and miserable. One day, a handsome young prince heard her voice and fell in love with her. Both of them decided to flee, but somehow the witch came to know about it. She cut down Rapunzel's long, beautiful hair and cast a spell on her, which led her to live in a lonely desert. The witch also cast a spell on the prince that made him go blind and left him to wander in the deserted forest. After many years of wandering, the prince and Rapunzel finally met. Rapunzel was so happy seeing her prince that she started crying, and a few of her tears fell in the prince's eyes. This brought back his eyesight, and both lived happily ever after in their kingdom.
Thumbelina, the tiny fairy.
Once upon a time, in a cozy little village surrounded by lush green forests and sparkling streams, lived a kind old woman who wished for a child more than anything else in the world. One day, she found a tiny seed in her garden and planted it in a flower pot. She cared for the seed with love and patience, watering it and keeping it warm. To her amazement, a beautiful, delicate flower soon bloomed. As the flower opened, the old woman was astonished to find a tiny girl no larger than a thumb inside. She had tiny, delicate features and sparkling eyes. The old woman named her Thumbelina, which means little thumb. Thumbelina was as lovely as she was tiny, with golden hair and a voice that sounded like the tinkling of tiny bells. She lived happily with the old woman, who cared for her as if she were her own child. Thumbelina slept in a walnut shell bed and played with the petals of flowers. But as the days passed, she grew curious about the world beyond the old woman's cottage. One sunny morning, while the old woman was out tending to her garden, Thumbelina decided to explore. She climbed out of her flower pot and ventured into the garden. She marveled at the colorful flowers, the buzzing bees, and the fluttering butterflies. But as she wandered further, she found herself in a meadow where she met a handsome but rather boastful toad. "Hello there, little one," said the toad, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I'm looking for a pretty wife. How would you like to come live with me in the swamp? It's very cozy there." Thumbelina, though polite, was frightened by the toad's appearance and his sudden proposal. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I must return home," she said, and hurried away. However, the toad was not easily discouraged. He hopped after her and, with a quick move, snatched her up in his webbed hands. He carried her to his muddy home in the swamp, where he had already prepared a bed of soft moss for her. Thumbelina felt sad and alone, but tried to stay brave. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, Thumbelina heard a gentle, melodious song. It was a family of dragonflies flying by. The dragonflies were enchanted by Thumbelina's beauty and kindness, so they decided to help her. They flew around the swamp, distracting the toad, and gently carried Thumbelina back to the meadow. Though she was relieved to be free, Thumbelina still felt sad about her adventure. She longed for a place where she truly belonged. As she wandered through the forest, she came across a charming little house made of twigs and leaves. Inside lived a kind family of field mice. The field mice invited Thumbelina to stay with them, and she gladly accepted. She helped them with their daily tasks, like gathering food and making tiny garments from acorn caps. Thumbelina enjoyed her time with the field mice and learned many things about the forest. One day, while Thumbelina was picking flowers, a handsome prince of the fairy realm happened to see her. He was captivated by her beauty and gentle nature. He introduced himself and explained that he was looking for a queen to share his kingdom. Thumbelina was both surprised and delighted, as she had always dreamed of meeting someone special. The prince took Thumbelina to his magical fairy kingdom, where she was welcomed with open arms. She was amazed by the beauty of the fairy realm. Flowers that glowed like stars, sparkling streams, and trees that whispered secrets to one another. Thumbelina and the prince soon became inseparable. They spent their days exploring the kingdom, having grand adventures, and enjoying the company of new friends. The prince admired Thumbelina's kindness and bravery, and Thumbelina loved the prince's gentle and caring nature. Eventually, Thumbelina and the prince were married in a magnificent fairy ceremony. The entire fairy kingdom celebrated their union with a grand feast and enchanting music. Thumbelina's dream of finding a place where she truly belonged had come true. She was no longer a tiny girl in a flower pot, but a queen in a magical realm. As Thumbelina looked back on her journey from the old woman's cottage to the fairy kingdom, she realized that every adventure had brought her closer to her true home. She lived happily ever after with the prince, surrounded by the love of her fairy friends and the beauty of her magical world. And so, Thumbelina's story teaches us that even the smallest among us can have the biggest adventures and find a place where we truly belong. In the end, it's not the size of our bodies, but the size of our hearts that makes all the difference. The end.